Have you ever had that feeling in a situation where everything seems to pile up at once? The assignments, the tasks, the deadlines, and suddenly you feel this rush inside you, pushing you to get everything done as quickly as possible, or maybe you freeze. It's the same feeling students often talk about when exams are approaching, or office workers when they mention that projects are stacking up at work. Well, that feeling has a name which we like to call stress. I'm sure we are all familiar with the subject. Every human being experiences it, but they all handle it in different ways. However, some people confuse it with anxiety, a feeling of fear to do something, even though any dangerous factors could be easily avoided. But both are closely related to each other, which is understandable with how similar their symptoms are. Together in this video, we'll be covering on topics about stress and anxiety and how they differ from one another. And additionally, we'll be learning on how we can handle them effectively. So, what exactly do we mean when we say stress and anxiety, other than that quote unquote feeling? Let's begin with stress. Stress is a natural body reaction when changes or challenges occur. Your body is in fact built to face and handle stress. The stress response is, in general, a fight or flight response which evolved as a survival mechanism, enabling people and other mammals to react quickly to life threatening situations. An example is when you're faced with a snake. Your body perceives it as a threat, and adrenaline is released, preparing your body to either fight or flee from the snake. However, modern life adds new things that our body will perceive as threats. Let's use a common example. Multiple upcoming tests will make us feel worried, since there's a lot to study and we don't feel like there's enough time to cover everything. Our brain becomes more alert, and that activates the body's natural stress response. Our nervous system releases stress hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol. This triggers physical changes such as faster heartbeat to pump more blood to the muscles, quickened breathing to supply more oxygen, heightened senses, and sharpened focus to detect dangers. It's a useful reaction. However, if it's activated for too long or too often, it causes negative effects, both physical and psychological. Physical includes exhaustion, headaches, and a weakened immune system, which, while psychological, includes increased irritability, exhaustion, difficulty to concentrate, and burnout. Stress, however, can result in many different physical, emotional, and behavioral responses. Everyone experiences stress from time to time. It's not something you can avoid. Stress is caused by external factors or internal factors, and this happens often when a person feels like they don't have enough resources to cope with a challenge or perceived threat. External stressors includes events, situations, and conditions in the outside world, taking care of yourself, finding a job, dealing with work, and internal stresses are like sources of stress that come from your mind and body, which include negative self talk, addiction, and unrealistic expectations of yourself. However, this is not the same for every people, and stress varies from person to person. This is more of a general idea of what causes stress. When we're talking about stress, there's three types of stress: acute, episodic acute, and chronic stress. However, we're only gonna be talking about acute and chronic stress. Acute stress is what people normally experience. It's defined as a short-term stress response and develops based on people's encounters and experiences. It usually occurs because of an easily solvable problem, such as a student becomes stressed because they're faced with multiple assignments with near deadlines. The solution? To finish the assignment so the stress will go away. It's beneficial as it motivates people to act quickly and solve problems that make their body more focused on dealing with the stressor on hand. Chronic stress. Chronic stress develops when acute stress is repeated over a long period of time. A great way to understand this is when the stressor is actively present in an individual's environment, putting excessive pressure on them. Well, the difference is that it does not go away quickly and the body is tense for a long time. An example is living in an unstable household with ongoing conflict, which creates stress every day. The person will never know how or when it will end, so they become stressed, and so it will keep them going for a long period of time. Chronic stress is a serious issue that leads to serious health problems such as anxiety disorders, depression, high blood pressure, and a weakened immune system overall. It often requires intentional coping strategies, a change in environment, or professional help to manage effectively. Now, how can this stress affect our lives? Note, this is still just a general overview, and how big of an impact it makes varies from person to person. Common impacts include overeating, becoming more sensitive to emotions, trouble sleeping, decreased motivation, and developing unhealthy coping habits. And there's so many more impacts that are caused by stress. And sometimes these can develop into bigger mental health problems. One of the most common conditions linked to ongoing stress is anxiety, though it may also contribute to depression, burnout, or other stress related disorders. Now that we have gone through and understood stress, let's talk about anxiety. Anxiety is an emotion that triggers the body's stress response. Later, you might notice that stress and anxiety have similar symptoms. However, the difference is stress tends to be short term and in response to a recognizable threat, while anxiety is lingering and may not have an easily identifiable trigger. It's normal to feel anxious in life, like before a presentation. However, it becomes more concerning when it happens too often or feels too overwhelming. Now, let's see what anxiety can do to your body and mind. Physically, increase your heart rate, sweating, trembling, digestive issues, and sleeping problems. For example, your heart might start racing even when you're just lying in bed, and your palms sweat before speaking in front of others, or your stomach might feel upset for no clear reason. Mentally, however, it would just cause persistent worry, restlessness, difficulty concentrating, and behavioral changes. You may find yourself worrying about the what ifs, like what if this never happened, and you feel restless during class or meetings, or struggling to focus on simple tasks like reading. These effects naturally spill into daily life, and anxiety really influences how people act and feel, though the impact is different for everyone. Some common examples are avoiding people or situations, trouble sleeping from racing thoughts, low motivation and focus, overthinking small decisions, getting irritated quickly, and using unhealthy coping habits. So, what causes anxiety? Well, it's similar to stress. It is caused by internal and external factors. It is a complex combination of biological factors such as genetic and brain chemistry and environmental factors, and lastly, substance use. To understand it better, we need to see common ways anxiety can be developed. It could be from the stress buildup, it could be personality, other mental health disorders, trauma, and lastly, having blood relatives with anxiety disorder. Since anxiety disorders can run in families. We mentioned a few times how people like to mistake one for another, but now that we've gone through stress and anxiety separately, let's take a closer look and a small conclusion on how they actually differ. Stress is more of a short-term reaction that fades once the problem is resolved. Anxiety lingers, caused by stress, or may start without the definite cause. Stress is often situational and temporary. Anxiety is more internal and ongoing and can become a mental health condition if not managed. When in reality, both can become a mental health condition if not managed. Stress often brings physical tension, headaches, irritability, or trouble sleeping. Anxiety also includes these symptoms, but adds excessive worry, constant fear, and difficulty controlling negative thoughts. Yes, they have similar symptoms and they can happen at the same time. Now that we understand stress and anxiety and how they are similar and different, the way to manage them is both relatively the same. So let's talk about suggestions. Talking to a trusted person can help you in getting a new perspective, and they can help you calm down or help you in managing these stressors. Next, we have breathing exercises, which you can easily find on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, anywhere, or practicing yoga or meditation can help you in relaxing your brain. Eating well can help you manage your stress better since there's less to worry about, since a healthier body will ensure that you are healthy and energized. Time management and organization, and because stress and anxiety usually stem from time based issues, it's best to set a clear goal to ensure these can be completed on time. Lastly, listening to music. Music heals the soul. It's something we're all familiar to, and it will can maybe help you open up or feel safe. When preventing stress, you must learn to recognize the triggers. By learning to identify what makes you stressed or feel anxiety, you can learn how to prevent it by avoiding the trigger. For example, if you often get stressed because of incoming schoolwork, learn how to manage your time and how to work efficiently and effectively will help you in reducing the stress and anxiety that comes with. If you have time and resources, please seek professional help. It is greatly advised when wanting to learn about more about your stress and anxiety. Seeking professional help does not have to happen when you have a severe problem. Counselors, therapists, and psychologists are meant to help you with anything that comes to mind, whether big or small. If you have the resources, use it. However, some people who experience chronic stress or anxiety disorders are advised by a healthcare professional for advice and support. A doctor may recommend psychological therapy such as CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy. Additionally, I would like to remind everyone to not be discouraged to seek help when stress. In fact, reaching out for support shows strength and self-awareness for yourself. And learning healthy ways to cope with stress and anxiety can prepare people to handle life challenges more effectively. Thank you for listening to our video. I hope it helps. Additionally, this is our bibliography and all the sources we used for this video. Thank you.